I'm making a bold statement here. Glenn County acted outside their jurisdiction. But I'm going to ask some questions and we're going to see how that happened. First, where was the sign located? Was it on Marty's property or was it in Kern County's? So what does the county record say? County records indicate that the property was in the name of Marty Reagan. So the sign was on his property, plus the sign was his property. Of course, this leads to more questions. The sign ordinance comes under zoning. Zoning gets its authority from the Georgia Constitution, specifically at Article 9, Section 2, Paragraph 1. And what does it say? It says, the governing authority of each county shall have legislative power to adopt clearly reasonable ordinances, resolutions, or regulations relating to its property, affairs, and local government. I want you all to think about something. Our Constitution, the federal Constitution, were all written not for the government to restrain the people, but for the people to be able to restrain their government. And that's why it is the primary law in this country. It is the supreme law. So the Constitution of Georgia offers the authority to the county to write ordinances over its property. Well, there you go. Parks, roads, public buildings, bridges. I could name some other things that are public, but not private property. It's very clear. Because, see, the Constitution can't be in conflict with itself. If it says that it can do it over your private property, then you don't have property rights. The confusion's in the wording. If you look at different ordinances throughout this county or the country, they'll say things like, over every sign. But you have to remember where their authority is. Over its property, the public roads, public buildings, not your private property. An ordinance can only be law if it's in agreement with the Georgia Constitution. Any directive in an ordinance that is not consistent with the Constitution is void. Wording in an ordinance cannot expand jurisdiction granted by the Constitution, period. And I've seen people argue this. They said, well, it says right here over your private property or this or that. And I said, wait a minute. That is expanding the jurisdiction that was granted by the Constitution. It is void. So let's review. And this is what I see as the problem. The jurisdiction is clear, and either the training was deficient or they just don't know. But they're not to go on your private property for these things. So I got a question for everybody. Having been through this far, did Marty need a sign permit? Absolutely not. Too many times I hear, well, that's the way it's done. It's public policy. Listen, folks, our country is run by written laws. Yes, a lot of times they defer to what's called public policy, but when the policy is against the Constitution or against the written laws, it must fail. But unfortunately, nobody's standing up for that. Marty's rights versus delegated authority. I mean, God gave rights to Marty Reagan. They gave him rights to life, to property, to contract, or not, to assemble, to keep and bear arms. What we, the people, did is delegated a certain amount of our authority to Glenn County. First and foremost, and primary, was to protect our rights. Then take care of the public roads, the public buildings, its property being parks, its assets. What we demand is that local policy align itself with the written law. And we want it now. Because if we don't get it, folks, things like this are going to happen again. I don't want Marty's death to be in vain. This was a tragic, tragic event. But let's make something of it. We must start standing up and saying, enough's enough, start obeying the law. What I'd like to do is up here, and please, I am going to open it up for public comments. Please remember that we have a grieving family here. But the Reagan family, Mr. Reagan, drove down from Atlanta for this. And I appreciate you coming, sir. Robin Finneday would like to say a few words.